cannot figure out why it won't let me multi-stream to Facebook. Anyway, I got another story I wanted to bring up here as I still struggle with trying to get my multi-stream working. If anybody is a tech genius and would like to assist me, that would just be awesome. Thank you very much. This is Brian4Liberty. This is going to be the new podcast format once I get this all figured out. But in the meantime, let's bring this one on. This is Boy Scouts of America, the outrage of Boy Scouts of America to become Scouting America, to be more inclusive. The Boy Scouts of America today announced that they will rebrand to Scouting America, reflecting the organization's ongoing commitment to welcome every youth and family in America to experience the benefits of scouting. The change will go into effect on February 8th, 2025. This is the organization's 115th anniversary. Though our name will be new, our mission remains unchanged. We are committed to teaching young people to be prepared for life. That is a change in the mission. Boy Scouts was initially a place for boys, and it's not anymore. And there's going to be outrage, and there's going to be there's going to be conversations about wokeness and all this other stuff, and all this typical kind of negative feedback on something like this is going to come, as you would expect it to be. I want to be a little bit different than that. And I guess my only question would be this. To those of you who are happy about this, those of you who think this is a good thing, that's fine. But my question is it okay for there to be a place for boys? And is it okay for there to be a place for girls? I don't want to get into the gender fluidity conversation. I'm not interested in that, at least not in the context of this video. What I want to know is it okay for there to be a place for boys and girls, and for those two places to be independent and exclusive of the opposite sex? And the reason I ask that question is I think that we're getting to a place in society where we're starting to decide that everybody is just the same. Boys and girls, men and women. There's becoming this idea that there's not a significant difference between the two. And while broad generalities shouldn't be used to distinguish or describe members of the opposite sex, there are certain personality characteristics that can be generally applied to one another that are exclusive, that are different, that men and women are different. That's my belief anyway. I believe that men and women are different. I believe that we interact with the world differently. I believe that we problem solve differently. And I think that young boys and young girls need different things growing up to be raised to be fine young men and fine young women. I think that it's okay for us to say there are different needs for these two sexes as they develop from childhood to adolescence through puberty into adulthood, that they need different types of guidance and access to different kinds of things. That doesn't mean that I think girls should be excluded from everything, or that boys should be excluded from everything, or that we should be just doing everything based on strict gender constructs. But I also think that it's okay for there to be a place where men are volunteering to help mentor young boys to become men, and where women are volunteering to mentor young girls to become young women, and that these things can happen separately from each other. And it doesn't have to be described. Every time there's a space for one group of people to the exclusion of another, doesn't necessarily mean that there is discrimination per se taking place, at least not in a negative light, that it's okay for people to want their own space. It's okay for freedom of association. I guess the way to break this down, or the quick, simple way to describe this thing would be, do we have freedom of association? Is it okay to say, I want to create a space for whatever group that I want to create them for? And if I do that, is that not necessarily a bad thing? Is that okay? I think it's a great idea for us to mingle. I think it's a great idea for people to share ideas. I think it's a great idea to be exposed to different ways of thinking and different ways of viewing the world. But I also think it's important for people to have their own space. So to me, that's where, isn't that the whole college, like where the safe spaces came from, is like, or these exclusionary places on college campuses that are focused on making sure that there's a quote unquote safe space. So isn't it okay for there to be a place where boys can just be boys in the absence of female influence, and vice versa? I don't know. I just don't think it's that bad of a thing to have that happen. And I'm not going to be all woebegone over the fact that the Boy Scouts have now gone, gender or whatever. They're letting everybody in. I don't think this is the end of the world. I don't think it's this crazy woke virus that everybody wants to describe it as. But at the end of the day, I just think that we need to have a conversation about whether or not it's just okay for people to have, for men to have their own space, for boys to have their own space. I believe strongly that women in women's sports, and that it's a valuable thing for girls to be able to play sports in their own space. I think it's a good thing that gyms have separate spaces, particularly for women to go and work out and stretch and stuff alone. So that if that makes them feel more comfortable, makes gyms more accessible, I think that's a good thing. So I don't understand why it's not a good thing for young men to have their own space as well. So that's my question. Answer in the comments, and thank you. And I'm still working on the multi-stream. So hit like and follow, subscribe to the page. I'm going to do what I can to